to prove that Musi had decapitated whiteness in the DA and was therefore showing that the DA was a fundamentally transformed party because Musi had got rid of Zille in the party. I never realized that that was the strategy until quite long afterwards.
Former leader of the Democratic Alliance and one-time Premier of the Western Cape Province, Helen Zille, has written a new book called Stay Woke, Go Broke: Why South Africa Won't Survive America's Culture Wars and What You Can Do About It. In this extract from a longer conversation on my other channel, Solutions with David Ansara, we explore some of the themes of the book. Enjoy. So Helen, your own party, the Democratic Alliance, you've had your own brushes with wokeism and it has affected the party itself. And you go into some detail about this in the book, as well as the attempted cancellation that was largely driven by opponents of yours within the party. Could you elaborate on what exactly happened? What was the build-up to that event, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Well, you know, South Africa as a whole, and not least the Democratic Alliance, faces the huge challenge of trying to win at the ballot box and of balancing all the political and other imperatives, which are very, very complex, to try and do that and to ensure that we maintain a commitment to non-racialism and inclusion at the same time. It's really not an easy task that we face. And I faced that task in particular and was desperately trying to make sure that the DA was an inclusive party that stood for shared values of constitutionalism, the rule of law, a market economy, non-racialism, separation between party and state, all of those things. And I thought it would be far more effective if we had leaders of all races promoting those ideas, which of course is true. And I was very committed to finding leaders of that caliber and ensuring that they reached the top spot, and I made an enormous effort to do so. And as everybody knows, my efforts didn't work out very well. And I was particularly disturbed by the extent to which inevitably it was all turned against me in the end. And the very people that I'd supported as much as I could to rise through their own efforts to the very top of the pyramid suddenly found that it had not satisfied the woke climate outside, and that it had not in any way changed the narrative that we were a white party. And I knew that nothing would ever change the narrative that we were a white party, because that suits the ANC. It doesn't matter how many black leaders there are in the DA. It doesn't matter that we have more black voters than white voters. That doesn't matter at all. The only thing the ANC and our opponents have is the race narrative. That's all they can play. And if we try to play into their hand of satisfying that critique of us, we will never be able to, because that's the only critique our opponents have of us. And so what I found myself becoming a victim of was the DA's attempts to satisfy our woke critics that we were not a white party, and being led into believing that if they could deliver my head on a platter, there would be a broad belief that we had now transformed because Zille had been decapitated in the DA. And the irony was that no one had done as much as I had to try and transform the DA. And of course, I landed up inevitably as being the target of those attempts. And that is what I describe in my book.
Enjoying this analysis? Click here to sign up for our 30-day free trial for more content from the CIA.
Could you describe the set of events that led up to the furore, the firestorm on Twitter, and how you were personally affected by that, and how you were able to kind of push back?
Well, indeed. I was Premier of the Western Cape at the time, and I had the good fortune of going to Singapore and Japan and various other places. And I used to learn an enormous amount on those trips about how other countries had made extraordinary transitions. In Japan, from being flattened in World War II to rebuilding an extraordinary economy. And in Singapore, starting from a far lower base than South Africa in the 1960s, and really ending up as one of the world's leading economies, with certainly the best education system, and jobs for everybody, and a complete middle-class lifestyle for everybody. So they'd made that transition almost to the end of history in one generation. And it is quite an extraordinary story, and I learned as much as I could about that. And I wrote up in a serious paper for the government and in various other articles, but also in a series of tweets, what my lessons were. And one of the key lessons was that they didn't try and destroy everything that they'd inherited from the past. They tried to build on the positive aspects that they'd inherited from the past. And they had done that with enormous success, and I tried to say that. Singapore was a colony for as long as South Africa. They inherited certain basic institutions, the port, some educational institutions, various governance institutions from British colonialism, and they really sought to build on those and retain what the positive attributes were. And I mentioned that as one of a series of 4 or 5 tweets, I think, around that particular aspect of building on what you've inherited from the past, not trying to destroy everything that you've inherited from the past. And that got the normal amount of negative haters on Twitter coming after me. And I said, look, for those of you who believe that the legacy of colonialism is only negative, think of things like our independent judiciary. Think of things like our transport infrastructure, our piped water, things like that. They're all inherited from the legacy of colonialism, the English language, all of these things. And we can build on them. We don't have to destroy everything we've inherited. And that set the Wokes absolutely aflame, because, of course, colonialism is seen as one of the great, great evils of whiteness, and one of the reasons that whites must be thrown into perdition for the rest of time. And that got the whole work engine going, including in the DA against me, and that set the wheels in motion.
And how were you able to hold your ground? Because I think one of the things that struck me in the book was how you said that apologizing is actually a poor strategic move, because you end up validating the criticisms of your opponents. So you did apologize, and you, as you state in the book, regretted doing so. But what were some of the other strategies that you used to push back?
I did apologize, and it was against my better judgment even at the time. But I apologized because I was convinced that that would help Musi deal with the gathering situation. I felt that I would help him draw a line under it if I apologized quickly and we moved on. Because I realized he was now being put in a very difficult position by the woke backlash, and I thought if I apologized, I would assist him to do that. What I didn't realize at the time was that he and his advisors would soon use that tweet as a rationale to try and get rid of me, to prove that Musi had decapitated whiteness in the DA and was therefore showing that the DA was a fundamentally transformed party because Musi had got rid of Zille in the party. I never realized that that was the strategy until quite long afterwards. I actually thought, well, I'd stated an obvious truth. It was in the matric textbook at the time. It had been stated repeatedly by Nelson Mandela and even Chinua Achebe and other people, across Africa again and again and again. It's just history 101, that the legacy of any past era is not only negative, and that whatever you can build on in the future, whether you want to or not, is the way that progress happens. And I really just thought, if I apologize and get this out of the way, we can move on. But that didn't happen. And the great advice I would give to people today, and I do give it to them in my book, is if you believe that you haven't done anything wrong, don't apologize. It just makes things worse. It makes your opponents believe that they have now proof that you've done something fundamentally wrong, and they will always find the reasons why your apology isn't sincere enough, is not far-reaching enough, etc., and they just take that on to the next stage.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do head on over to my personal channel, Solutions with David Ansara, to discuss these problems in more detail and also to unpack potential solutions to these issues. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and give this video a like. And until next time, take care.